Dr. James Rivera stared at the holographic display floating above the diagnostic bed, his weathered face illuminated by its soft blue glow. The patient before him, a Zylaxian diplomat with iridescent scales, was the 7th case this week, showing the same bizarre symptoms. Around him, the gleaming white walls of the galactic medical station Epsilon 9 seemed to pulse with the tension in the room. "It's spreading faster than we predicted," announced Chief Medical Officer Angelara, her crystalline form shifting colors from deep purple to anxious amber. 3 more cases reported from the lower levels, different species, same symptoms. James ran his hand through his graying hair, studying the neural patterns displayed in the hologram. The Zylaxians' typically brilliant scales had dulled to a sickly gray, and their respiratory rate was falling dangerously low. What caught his attention, however, was the unusual pattern of synaptic misfiring occurring throughout their nervous system. "The quarantine protocols aren't working," said Dr. Techvorn, his tentacles writhing in agitation as he reviewed data on his personal terminal. "Whatever this is, it's not responding to any known treatment in the galactic medical database." James stepped closer to the patient, his mind racing through possibilities that his alien colleagues might have overlooked. After 15 years as the only human doctor on Epsilon 9, he'd learned that sometimes the most obvious solutions were invisible to those who'd never set foot on Earth. "Has anyone considered that this might not be a pathogen at all?" he asked, reaching for his old-fashioned medical scanner, a relic from Earth that had saved more lives than he could count. Angelara's crystalline surface rippled with skepticism. "All evidence points to a viral agent, Dr. Rivera." "The spread pattern." "The spread pattern matches a viral infection," James interrupted. "But look at these neural readings. They remind me of something we used to see on Earth, in cases of environmental toxicity." The medical bay fell silent. 20 pairs of alien eyes, some compound, some singular, some merely sensory patches, turned to stare at him. The human doctor had earned their respect over the years, but suggesting their entire approach was wrong. That was bold, even for him. "Impossible," Dr. Techvorn declared, his tentacles now a rigid mass of disapproval. "Our environmental systems are perfect. Triple redundant. Fail-safe." James activated his scanner, sweeping it slowly over the Zylaxian's body. The device was considered primitive by galactic standards, but it could detect things that more advanced alien technology sometimes missed. "Perfect systems can still be perfectly wrong," he muttered, watching the readings carefully. The scanner beeped, and James's eyes widened. "There," he said, projecting his findings onto the main holographic display. "Look at these trace elements. They're not supposed to be there." Angelara moved closer, her crystalline form catching the light as she studied the readings. "These elements, they're from the new quantum filtration system we installed last month. The one that's supposed to be completely inert," James asked, raising an eyebrow. "I think it's breaking down at the quantum level, releasing particles that interact differently with each species' nervous system. That's why the quarantine isn't working. It's not a virus we're fighting. It's our own technology." The room erupted in voices, each doctor speaking in their native tongue as they processed this revelation. The universal translators struggled to keep up with the overlapping conversations. "But the filtration system was tested extensively," Techvorn protested, his tentacles now moving in complex patterns that suggested deep concern. "The quantum stability was guaranteed for at least a century." "By whose standards?" James challenged. "Did anyone test it against human neural patterns, or Zylaxian, or any of the dozen other species now showing symptoms?" Angelara's color shifted to a deep blue of decision. "Even if you're right, Dr. Rivera, shutting down the filtration system could expose the station to dangerous space radiation. We'd be trading one crisis for another." James smiled, pulling up his personal database, a collection of Earth medical knowledge he brought with him to space. "Not necessarily. On Earth, we developed treatments for radiation exposure centuries ago. They're crude by your standards, but they work. More importantly, they work on multiple species because they target fundamental cellular processes. He displayed the treatment protocols, watching as his alien colleagues absorbed the information. It was unorthodox, combining Earth medicine with galactic technology, but it might be their only chance. "This is highly irregular," Ancillera said finally, her crystalline form now shimmering with a mix of colors that suggested both concern and curiosity. "The medical council will need to approve such an unprecedented approach." "With respect, Chief," James said, gesturing to their deteriorating patient, "I don't think we have time for council approval. Sometimes you have to trust human intuition." The room fell silent again as all eyes turned to Ancillera. As Chief Medical Officer, her word was final. She studied James for a long moment, her crystalline surface shifting through a rainbow of decision-making colors before settling on a brilliant white of resolution. "Proceed, Dr. Rivera," she said finally. "But know that if this fails, the consequences will be severe." James nodded, already preparing the first phase of his treatment. "Understood. Now, let's save some lives." The Emergency Medical Council chamber hummed with tension as Dr. James Rivera stood before the gathered representatives of 12 different species. Holographic displays filled the air around them, showing the rapidly increasing number of affected patients across Epsilon 9's levels. The station's quantum filtration system continued its silent work, unknowingly poisoning those it was meant to protect. "What you're proposing is unprecedented," rumbled Council Elder Vexcor, his crystalline exoskeleton catching the light as he leaned forward. "Shutting down our primary radiation shield to implement an untested Earth treatment. The risk is unacceptable." James stepped forward, his voice steady despite the exhaustion of working 36 hours straight. "With respect, Elder, we're already facing an unacceptable risk. In the time we've spent debating this, 12 more patients have been admitted to medical bay." "We understand the urgency," interjected Dr. Lissara, a meridian healer whose bioluminescent patterns pulsed with anxiety. "But your solution seems primitive. These radiation treatments you propose, they're centuries behind our current medical technology." "Sometimes the old ways work best," James replied, pulling up a holographic simulation. "Look at these projections. If we don't act now, within 48 hours, every being on this station will be affected. The quantum particles are accumulating in neural tissue faster than we can treat the symptoms." Chief Medical Officer Ancillera, standing beside James, shifted her crystalline form to project confidence. "I've reviewed Dr. Rivera's proposal thoroughly. While unorthodox, his logic is sound. The treatment has a proven track record on Earth, and the principles behind it are universal to all carbon-based life forms." The council chamber erupted in overlapping discussions, each species communicating in their native way, some through sound, others through color changes, still others through pheromonal releases that the station's environmental systems struggle to filter. James watched the chaos unfold, his hand unconsciously touching the pocket where he kept his old Earth medical scanner. The device had never failed him, and its readings were clear. They were running out of time. "Enough." The voice cut through the noise like a laser through fog. It came from Ambassador Call, a usually silent member of the council. The ancient Archivian's translucent body glowed with internal light as she rose from her seat. "I have accessed the historical databases of 1,000 worlds. Do you know what I found?" The chamber fell silent, all attention turning to the respected historian. Time and again, across the galaxy, progress has come not from perfect solutions, but from desperate innovations in times of crisis. The Xylaxian plague of 2187, cured by a fungus found in their planet's deepest caves. The great sleep of the Meridian colonies, solved by studying the hibernation patterns of simple Earth bears. Kittle's glow intensified as she continued. "We pride ourselves on our advanced technology, but we forget that advancement often comes from embracing new, or in this case, old perspectives. James felt a surge of hope as the ambassador's words seemed to resonate with the council. But Elder Vexcor wasn't finished. "Pretty words, Ambassador, but they don't change the facts. If we shut down the quantum filtration system and this Earth treatment fails, we expose everyone on this station to lethal levels of radiation. And if we do nothing," James countered, "we condemn everyone to certain neural degradation. At least my way gives us a fighting chance." He pulled up another holographic display, this one showing the successful historical cases of radiation treatment from Earth's medical archives. "We can set up temporary shielding around critical areas. We have emergency protocols for shield failures. We've just never had to use them. Yes, it's risky, but it's a calculated risk." Anxelera stepped forward, her crystalline form now pulsing with determination. "As Chief Medical Officer, I remind the Council that our primary directive is to preserve life. We've tried every advanced treatment in our database. Perhaps it's time to try something different." The Council chamber fell into contemplative silence. James could almost feel the weight of the decision pressing down on them all. Lives hung in the balance, and time was running out. Finally, Elder Vexcor spoke again, his voice heavy with resignation. "The Council will vote. But know this, Dr. Rivera. If we approve this plan, you alone will bear responsibility for its outcome." James straightened his shoulders, meeting the Elder's gaze. "I understand, and I accept that responsibility." The voting process was swift, each council member registering their decision through their neural interfaces. James held his breath as the final tally appeared in the air before them. 7 in favor, 5 against. "Your proposal is approved, Dr. Rivera," Elder Vexcor announced, his tone making it clear he had voted against it. "You have 24 hours to implement your treatment before the neural damage becomes irreversible. I hope your human intuition proves as reliable as you claim." As the council members filed out, Cull approached James, her ethereal form dimmed to a gentle glow. "Sometimes the greatest breakthroughs come from those willing to challenge our most basic assumptions. Good luck, Doctor." James nodded his thanks, already mentally preparing for the task ahead. He had convinced the council, but that was only the first step. Now came the hard part, turning theory into practice, with hundreds of lives hanging in the balance. The main medical bay of Epsilon 9 had been transformed in the 6 hours since the council's approval. Emergency radiation shielding created a maze of protected corridors throughout the station, their dull lead composite surfaces a stark contrast to the usual gleaming walls. Dr. James Rivera stood at the central control station, surrounded by holographic displays showing the status of every patient and every system. "Final systems check complete," announced Dr. Techvorn, his tentacles dancing across multiple control interfaces. "Emergency shielding is at maximum capacity. Life support systems are ready for radiation protocol." James nodded, checking his old Earth scanner one last time. "How many patients total?" 147, replied Anxelera, her crystalline form glowing with a mix of determination and concern. 83 critical, 64 showing early symptoms. We've moved them all to shielded treatment zones." The human doctor took a deep breath, knowing what came next would either save everyone or go down as one of the worst medical disasters in galactic history. "Begin shutdown sequence for the quantum filtration system." Warning alarms blared throughout the station as the advanced radiation shield began powering down for the first time since its installation. Red emergency lights pulsed in rhythm with the alerts, casting strange shadows through the temporary shielding. "Quantum filtration at 60% and falling," reported Techvorn. "First radiation warnings registering in outer sectors." James pulled up the treatment protocol he'd adapted from Earth's historical medical database. "Start administering the radiation protection compounds to all patients. Remember, dosage varies by body mass, not species. This is about basic cellular protection." Medical teams moved through the treatment zones, delivering carefully measured doses of the Earth-derived compounds. Some patients received injections, Others required gaseous administration, and a few needed the medicine absorbed through their outer membranes. Quantum filtration at 30%, called out Techforn. Radiation levels rising faster than predicted. James frowned, quickly adjusting calculations on his display. The quantum particles must be affecting the radiation patterns. Accelera. Increase emergency shielding power by 20% in sectors 3 through 7. Suddenly, alarms changed pitch. A meridian patient was convulsing, their bioluminescence flashing erratically. James rushed to their side, scanner in hand. The treatment's causing a cascade reaction with their neural patterns, he announced, fingers flying over the medical controls. The quantum particles are becoming unstable as they break down. This wasn't in your predictions, Dr. Rivera, Techforn said, anxiety causing his tentacles to writhe. Perhaps we should abort. No, James cut him off, already adjusting the patient's treatment. We're committed now. Stopping halfway would be worse than not starting at all. He administered a modified dose of the radiation compound, watching as the meridian's convulsions slowly subsided. Quantum filtration at 10%, reported a junior medical officer, their voice shaking. Radiation levels approaching critical in unshielded areas. James looked up at the main display, watching as red warning indicators spread across the station map. They were committed now for better or worse. Begin full shutdown and particle purge. Accelera, I need you monitoring neural patterns across all species. Techforn, keep those radiation levels under control. The next hour was controlled chaos. As the quantum filtration system fully deactivated, the accumulated particles began breaking down in patients' neural tissue. Each species reacted differently, some with seizures, others with temporary consciousness loss, a few with bizarre psychic manifestations that required additional shielding. James moved from patient to patient, adjusting treatments on the fly, using his Earth scanner to detect problems before they became critical. His human intuition, combined with decades of experience, helped him spot patterns that the advanced alien medical systems missed. Doctor, called Accelera urgently. The Xylaxian ambassador's neural patterns are destabilizing. James rushed to the ambassador's bed, where the once proud diplomat's scales had turned almost completely gray. The scanner readings confirmed his fears. The quantum particles were breaking down too quickly, causing a chain reaction in the ambassador's unique neural structure. I need a crystalline resonator, James ordered, remembering an old Earth treatment for similar neural cascades, and get me a sample of the ambassador's scale tissue. The medical team scrambled to comply as James began modifying the treatment on the spot. He had one chance to get this right: the ambassador's life, and possibly the success of the entire treatment protocol, hung in the balance. This is highly irregular, muttered Techforn, passing him the requested items. Welcome to human medicine, James replied, carefully calibrating the resonator to match the quantum frequency he'd detected in the ambassador's tissue. Sometimes you have to improvise. As he worked, James could feel the weight of every eye in the medical bay upon him. The next few moments would either validate or destroy everything he'd fought for. With steady hands, he activated the modified treatment, watching as the resonator's energy intersected with the quantum particles in the ambassador's neural tissue. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the ambassador's scales began to regain their iridescent sheen. Neural patterns stabilizing, reported Accelera, her crystalline form brightening with hope. The quantum particles are breaking down safely. James allowed himself a small smile. They weren't out of danger yet, but they passed a crucial test. Apply this modification to all patients showing similar reactions, he ordered. We're going to get through this, one patient at a time. 12 hours after the quantum filtration shutdown, the main medical bay of Epsilon 9 had transformed from a crisis center into a recovery ward. Dr. James Rivera stood before the central monitoring station, reviewing patient data with tired but satisfied eyes. The emergency radiation shielding still created a maze throughout the station, but now it felt more like a sanctuary than a desperate last resort. Neural recovery rates are exceeding all projections. Ancillera announced, her crystalline form glowing with what James had learned to recognize as excitement. The quantum particles have been completely cleared from 87% of patients. James nodded, checking readings on his Earth scanner to confirm. And the radiation exposure levels? Well within safe parameters, Techforn replied, his tentacles moving in more relaxed patterns now. The emergency shielding performed better than expected. Though I still don't understand how you knew it would work. I didn't know, James admitted, rubbing his tired eyes. I hoped. Sometimes that's all we humans have to go on. The medical bay doors slid open as Elder Vexcor entered, accompanied by Ambassador Catal and several other council members. Their presence immediately commanded attention from the medical staff. Dr. Rivera, Vexcor began, his crystalline exoskeleton catching the light as he moved. The council has reviewed the preliminary results of your unconventional treatment. James straightened, preparing himself for whatever judgment was coming. And we find ourselves in the unusual position of having to reevaluate certain long-held beliefs about medical advancement. The elder's tone carried a hint of reluctant admiration. Your methods were unorthodox, even dangerous by our standards, but the results are undeniable. Ambassador Catal's ethereal form brightened. The historical archives will note this as a turning point in galactic medicine. The successful integration of Earth's historical medical knowledge with our advanced technology opens up possibilities we never considered. As if to emphasize their point, a group of recovering patients caught everyone's attention. A Xylaxian diplomat, scales now gloriously iridescent, was deep in conversation with a Meridian healer whose bioluminescence had returned to full strength. Next to them, a young Archivian researcher was already documenting the experience, their translucent form pulsing with enthusiasm. Chief Medical Officer Ancillera, Vexcor turned to address her. Your decision to support Dr. Rivera's proposal, despite its risks, shows admirable judgment. The Council believes this experience demonstrates the need for more flexible thinking in our medical protocols. Ancillera's crystalline surface shimmered with pride. Dr. Rivera has taught us that sometimes the most advanced solution isn't always the best solution. Human intuition and experience have proven to be valuable assets to our medical program. James watched as Techforn approached a nearby treatment station, his tentacles moving in what could only be described as contemplative patterns. I've been analyzing the integration of Earth's radiation treatments with our technology, the alien doctor announced. There are applications we never considered, ways to improve our existing protocols by incorporating these primitive techniques. That's the beauty of medical science, James said, moving to join him at the station. Every tradition, every culture, every species has something to contribute. We just need to be open to learning from each other. Ambassador Kittle drifted closer, her glow pulsing with curiosity. Dr. Rivera, the Council has a proposal for you. We believe this incident has highlighted a significant gap in our medical knowledge. We would like to establish a new division within Epsilon 9's medical department, focused on integrating various species' medical traditions with our current technology. James felt a surge of hope as he realized what was being offered, a cross-cultural medical research initiative. More than that, Vexcor interjected, a complete reimagining of how we approach galactic medicine, and we want you to lead it. The medical bay fell silent as staff and patients alike waited for James's response. He looked around at the faces of his alien colleagues, some he'd worked with for years, others he'd only come to know during this crisis. Each one represented a different approach to healing, a different way of understanding the universe. Under one condition, James said finally, this isn't about humans teaching aliens or aliens teaching humans. It has to be a true collaboration. Every species, every medical tradition gets an equal voice. Ancillera moved to stand beside him, her crystalline form radiating approval. Agreed. We've learned that true advancement comes not from assuming superiority, but from recognizing that every perspective has value. Even the primitive ones. Techforn asked, his tentacles curling in what James now recognized as amusement. Especially those. James smiled. After all, sometimes the old ways work best. As the council members began discussing the logistics of the new initiative, James's attention was drawn to his old Earth scanner, still faithfully providing readings from nearby patients. The device was outdated by galactic standards, practically an antique, yet it had played a crucial role in saving hundreds of lives. It stood as a perfect symbol of what they were trying to achieve: the marriage of experience and innovation, of intuition and technology, of human insight and alien advancement. The future of galactic medicine would be built not on dismissing the past, but on learning from it. 1 month after the quantum filtration crisis, the medical bay of Epsilon 9 had undergone a remarkable transformation. Where once stark uniformity had ruled, the space now reflected a blend of medical traditions from across the galaxy. Traditional Earth diagnostic tools sat alongside advanced alien technology, while the walls display both holographic medical data and ancient healing symbols from various cultures. Dr. James Rivera stood in his new office, the headquarters of the Cross-Species Medical Integration Program. Before him, a diverse group of medical practitioners from 12 different species gathered for their first official meeting. The room hummed with multiple translation fields as everyone settled in. 3 weeks ago, we faced a crisis that our most advanced medical technology couldn't solve. James began, looking around at his colleagues. Today, we begin the work of ensuring that never happens again. Anxulara, now co-director of the program, stepped forward. Her crystalline form shimmered with purpose as she activated a holographic display showing medical data from the crisis. The success rate of Dr. Rivera's treatment has been thoroughly documented. 100% recovery among all affected patients, with no lasting side effects. More importantly, Techforn added, his tentacles moving in elegant patterns as he manipulated the display. We've begun integrating Earth's radiation treatment protocols with our existing medical technology. The preliminary results are extraordinary. The display shifted to show a new treatment module that combined the principles of Earth's radiation therapy with advanced alien biotechnology. It was beautiful in its simplicity, yet revolutionary in its implications. Ambassador Catole's ethereal form pulsed with satisfaction. The historical archives now contain detailed records of this achievement. Future generations will study this as the moment when galactic medicine truly began to evolve beyond its technological boundaries. James watched as a young Xylaxian doctor demonstrated a modified version of his old Earth scanner, now enhanced with crystalline technology from Anxulara's people. The device represented everything they were working to achieve, the perfect fusion of different medical traditions. But our work is just beginning, James continued, bringing up images of new research projects. Every species here has unique medical knowledge that others might benefit from. The Meridian's understanding of bioluminescent healing, the Archivian's cellular regeneration techniques, Earth's adaptive treatment protocols. Together, they form something greater than the sum of their parts. Elder Vexcor, who had initially opposed James's treatment plan, now stood at the back of the room, his crystalline exoskeleton reflecting the various displays. I must admit, Dr. Rivera, that my initial skepticism was misplaced. Your success has opened our eyes to possibilities we never considered. That's what humans do best. James smiled. We see possibilities where others see problems, but we're also smart enough to know we don't have all the answers. That's why this program is so important. The meeting continued as each species representative presented their unique medical perspectives. A Meridian healer demonstrated their light-based therapy techniques, while an Archivian researcher shared insights into their species' natural regenerative abilities. Each presentation was met with genuine curiosity and thoughtful questions, the kind of exchange that James had always dreamed of facilitating. As the session wound down, James found himself standing before the main viewport, watching the stars beyond Epsilon 9. Anxulara joined him, her crystalline form reflecting the starlight. "You've changed things here, James," she said quietly. "Not just our medical practices, but our way of thinking." "We all changed things," he corrected her. "What happened here wasn't just about human intuition or alien technology. It was about learning to trust each other, to see value in different approaches." "The Council has approved expansion of the program to other medical stations," she announced. "They want to implement similar integration protocols throughout the galaxy." James nodded, thinking about the implications. It won't always be easy. Some will resist change, cling to their traditional ways, whether those traditions are based in advanced technology or ancient practices. "But that's exactly why we need this program," Techvorn interjected, joining them at the viewport. "The crisis showed us that no single approach is perfect. It's the combination, the willingness to learn from each other, that makes us stronger." As if to emphasize his point, an emergency alert sounded from the medical bay. A transport ship was requesting emergency medical assistance for a crew member with an unknown condition. James smiled as he watched his diverse team spring into action, each bringing their unique perspectives and abilities to bear. Earth scanners worked alongside alien diagnostic tools, while traditional healing practices complemented advanced treatments. This was the future of medicine he had always envisioned, not a competition between different approaches, but a harmony of healing traditions. "Well," he said, turning to join his team, "let's show the galaxy what integrated medicine can do." The stars continued their eternal dance outside the viewport as inside Epsilon 9, a new era of galactic medicine was taking shape, one patient at a time.